Welcome back to another episode of Not the Same, a podcast that brings you true stories of real people sharing their personal testimonies of transformation. I am your host, Rachel Heimberg. I want to say thank you to those that continue to listen week after week, even despite the schedule change. I so appreciate all of you and you keep me going. If this happens to be your first time hearing of us, I'm glad you're here. Please take a minute and leave a review or comment on whatever app you're using. We are available just about everywhere, so find your favorite and keep listening. If you would like to reach out to me with a comment or a suggestion, please do so through the dedicated podcast email, notthesame.cfm@gmail.com. A number of you have, and I always enjoy hearing from you. I was so grateful to have had my own father share his testimony last time. I had a great time and trust you guys did as well. I never get tired of hearing how God, then and now, has the power to change lives. Today, I am here with another member of our church here in El Dorado Park. I don't want to give too much away, but I am happy to have her here. Sheenn Rendell, along with her family, are a great blessing to this church. As usual, I know a bit, but not too much, of her life before salvation, so I'm excited to dive into her testimony today. So first of all, I want to say thank you, Sheenn, for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Rachel.
I know we kind of planned this a while ago and just life kept happening, and so just start with how you came to be and we'll go from there.
So, Rachel, I grew up with both my parents. Obviously, they were not married. So my mom was married before and got divorced. She came out of a very abusive marriage. So I've got two sisters from that marriage, from my mom. When my elder sister was 2 years old, then my mom met my dad.
Okay.
But my dad was still in a marriage at that time, but their marriage was rocky. They lived in the same house, but separate bedrooms. My dad went to prison for a while being married to this woman. I think for 7 years.
Can I ask what for?
So my father used to be like notorious or whatever. I've never seen that side.
Like a gangster.
Like a gangster.
Wow.
So he belonged to a gang. Back then, they didn't like with today's gangs, just shooting random people. No, it wasn't that. The gangs from that time, it was totally different. But what occurred was there was a fight that was happening. So they didn't use guns. They used to use weapons or, pangas or like whatever.
Yeah.
And the story that I was told is they beat this guy up and one of the guys picked up a slab, like a concrete slab, and threw it on this guy.
Wow.
So my father actually wanted to stop it from happening. There was a lady that was apparently a witness. She seen all this and she just seen my father going in for it, but he tried to stop.
So they were all together.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was like a mob justice, something like that. So obviously when he went to court, this woman mentioned my father. But when you're in a gang, you're not going to snitch on anybody.
For sure.
So he took it upon himself and he went to prison for the 7 years. Wow. So while being in prison, there were stories of his wife having an affair while he was in prison. And when he came out, that is when he told her, what, we need to break up.
Okay.
But they didn't divorce until after my sister. My sister was born in 92. Now they got divorced in 91.
Okay.
So yes,
you were already born.
I was already born.
Yeah. So how many sisters total from that you have?
My mom has the two from a previous marriage and my sister and I.
Okay.
And then my dad, we're about 8.
Wow. And
my
brothers or just sisters?
2 brothers, one passed on. Another sister of mine also passed on. So my father had a lot of children.
Where are your parents from?
From Joburg, but my mom was originally grew up in Rendell, Westbury. Same with my dad. Okay. My dad and my mom were never married.
Okay.
They always lived like my mom had her own house. My father always made it a point to come and see us every day.
Wow.
So growing up, that didn't seem weird.
Yeah.
Even though I know I had a lot of friends whose parents were married, but that is something I always wanted. You would come like 3-4 hours and then you would leave. And being a girl, you need dad
Yeah.
for certain things. At primary school, I was at the Catholic primary school, closer to where my dad was. So I felt like,
Yeah.
that he was a bit more
So
involved.
he didn't live with you,
No,
but he was always there.
he would come by every day, normally for 4 hours or whatever.
Was there a reason they didn't live together?
They didn't say. My father just had enough of marriage.
Oh, okay.
But my mom mentioned that my father mentioned something about marriage, but I think because they came out of hurt marriages on both sides.
Yeah. So they just made it work like
So they
this.
just made it work.
Okay. So your mom always worked then?
Yes. But I don't know my father as a working guy.
Okay.
So my father was a drug dealer.
Okay.
Yes. So that was something different. But Rachel, I must say, they would be like, your father was notorious, your father this, that, and the other. I didn't see that side. He was always this gentle person. They say, okay, he used to sell drugs. I've never seen any funny activity. Nothing at all.
So he never brought it home to you guys, or he never brought it to your mom?
No, my mother did mention there were a couple of times where he would, from where he lived, the police were always on him. So, he would bring it over home. But we did not see any funny activity or police knocking on our doors. Even if police came, we were never there to see.
Wow.
All
That's
those
cool.
things.
I mean, that's
Yes, they try to protect us from,
Yeah.
that. And only after when we're getting older, you realize,
Yeah.
goodness.
How was growing up then? What was life like with your mom going through school? You mentioned real quick Catholic school.
Yes, Catholic school throughout. But like I say, my father lived in Westbury and the Catholic school was in Coronation, like 5-minute walk. So I felt closer to him then, because he would come around to the school. So I could see him more often.
Okay. Because it was a drive for your mom.
Yes.
But it was just walking for your dad.
Yes.
Okay.
But I lived with my mom in Elders. But you would come and see me during break, like quick visit or sometimes pick us up. Then he'll bring us through to Elders, my sister and I. But growing up, my mom was always there. The fact that my father used to sell drugs, there was always money. We always had whatever we wanted.
Okay.
She strongly believed that she's going to work. So my mom got saved in 1990. And that is when she said to my dad, you know what? I don't want any of your money because this is not legitimate money. You do for your kids. But other than that, I will do for myself. So my mom still worked.
Okay.
She bought her own car, everything.
So you said she got saved. Before that, was there religion in the home? I mean,
there was religion. Her grandmom used to take my mom to church. They were Seventh-day Adventists.
Okay.
That is what she has, that vivid memory. So she can remember them walking to and from church. My gran used to drink a lot. So there was too much fighting and animosity. My mom and my gran didn't really have a relationship. My mom lived with my mom's mom.
Oh, wow. The one that brought them to church.
My great-grandmother.
Okay.
My mom fell pregnant with my elder sister at the age of 16.
Okay.
So when she got married to my sister's dad, she was forced to go to the Apostolic Church.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, and so she says she did get saved. She did a sinner's prayer and whatever that time, but obviously she backslid. But she says that also the teaching, there was something dodgy about that. Nah?
You said she got saved in the 90s.
When she became serious was in 1990, when we came to our new church in El Dorado Park, United Reformed Church. So that is the church that I used to go to.
Okay. So do you think now, looking back with your life now, would you say, was it a pretty good foundation gospel-wise? Do you see that your mom really tried to raise you guys properly?
Yes, she built a strong foundation. When it comes to church, be how sick you go to church. You have to be half dead not to go.
Yeah.
She wasn't very keen on the youth nights because she felt that that is your entertainment. So punishment, you would not go because it's not really church. It's more fun for the youth,
I get it.
But she was very, very strict on church going, Bible reading, prayer, and all that. But coming into my teens, like my mom was always there. She was always working, very active in the church choir, all of that. But emotionally, we were distant. I always longed for like a relationship. But my mother had a very, very busy life.
I was going to say, and most South African women do. And you're expected to also, if you're working full time, still take care of the home. And then, of course, being a single mom, basically, she was for all intents and purposes single. She had to do everything. So I've heard that a few times where even though the mom is there,
she's not there. It
Yeah,
feels
because-
like that distance, you know?
because you don't have time.
Yes. So my two elder sisters, they used to fall in where needed. But it didn't bother me till I had my own children because I used to see it in different places. Like, I want that. I want to be able to be open with my mom,
Yeah.
to tell her anything.
Yeah.
She was just that strict. She and my dad, they were very, very strict. 5 o'clock, you need to be in the house. You can go to movies during the day. They'll drop me, they'll pick me up, but nothing out of the ordinary. We want to know where you at all
Yeah.
times.
Did you start to push against that as you got a little older?
Not until my first year of matric. No, second year. So my first year of matric, I failed. And in South Africa, you can go and rewrite the certain subjects that you failed. They did not want to hear anything of that. So my mom went to the principal. She pleaded with him, can Sheenn please come back?
You had to do the whole year.
I had to do, Rachel, you must imagine, I need to go back to school. You think of your pride, you know, the embarrassment, what are the children going to say? But I do not regret going back. Then that is why I can always thank my mom, like pushing. So I went back the second year, and that's when I met Houston.
So up until then, how would you say your own spiritual view on life? Because obviously growing up, you didn't have so much time to get in trouble, but I know sometimes kids find ways.
Yeah.
But would you say, looking back, were you a good kid?
I was.
Like
Rachel, I was terrified of my parents.
Yes.
I was that scared. So I wouldn't even want to upset my mother. That is how it was. It's like, you know, when she's sleeping, like you need to be like quiet, do what you have to do.
Okay.
You know, you just try not to do anything to upset my mom. I would rather do whatever my mom wants done instead of upsetting her. You know, I was very afraid of my parents, like very.
Were they on the same page with that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Obviously your dad's not there, but he also like, no.
He was.
You're going to do this, you're going to do this.
And
Did you support your mom? Like listen to your mother?
Yes.
That's great.
Like there were times where I would try the manipulation, you know, because my parents didn't live together. My father didn't have that. You can visit weekends, that is fine, but not, Daddy, I had a fight with mommy, or this is the situation, can I please come over? He wouldn't.
Wow.
He would not.
They functioned like a couple.
They did. That is why I'm saying
strange.
It seemed normal then because, you know, they worked hand in hand. Anything to do with us, they would communicate and it would work out.
Wow. That's actually a miracle in itself when you look back, especially in, you know, I've read a lot of stories and people aren't like that. So kids grow up with so much more confusion.
Yes.
Because it's like, well, this is okay here and this is okay there. And they're passed around from place to place and they're not protected. But it seems like your parents were, to the best of their ability, like, you know, we are going to protect our children despite what's happening. Another question, were they always a couple?
Yeah. Mom and my dad were together for, I can't remember the exact. My dad passed in 2012. So
until then, they were always a couple. They just never lived together.
Never lived together.
That is so weird.
And I can't remember times where my dad would even spend a night or my mom would not be there. They made this seem so
normal.
So normal, you know.
But it's not it's normal.
Not. No,
that's strange. That's why I love doing this. I love the stories. I love everyone's background is so different and unique. Like you said, it might seem normal, but it's not that normal.
Yes. Yeah. So second matric, I met Houston.
Where did you meet him?
Houston dropped my sister and her boyfriend off at our house. So he gave them a lift. My sister's boyfriend at the time knew Houston. They were like family friends. They had lunch and obviously they needed a lift back to Elders. And then Houston just bought this guy. He was 17 at the time. We dropped out of school because he had a child at the time. Yeah.
You're older.
Yeah, but I think it was 8 months.
I always forget that.
Yes, like it was 8 months.
Okay.
So he came there, dropped my sister, but he came in obviously to greet my mom. And I was sitting at the table doing my homework in the lounge. And he looked at me and then said to his dad, I'm going to marry that girl. And his father's like, are you married? You don't even know that girl. He's like, I'm going to marry. That is my wife.
That is so
I didn't know Houston's name. I knew nothing.
And you'd never met him before?
I've never met him before.
But he saw you and said, that's going to be my wife.
So they left and, kid you not, Houston was back the next day to come and greet my sister.
Oh.
But that was obviously the eye blind.
Yeah. Did you like him as well?
No, because you'd see how big built Houston is. Yeah. So I assumed that he was much older than me.
Okay.
And yeah, he's driving a car. And I thought, okay, no, he's older because he worked at the time.
Yeah.
So when he mentioned, that I like him, like my father wouldn't allow me to date somebody older than me. And his brother runs into the car, fetches his learners, and he shows me the learners, and he's like, look at his date of birth. And I'm like, I'm older than you. And he's like, yes, don't judge a book by its cover.
Wow.
Yeah, so Houston and I started dating.
Were your parents fine
No,
with that?
my mom knew there's something because Houston would pitch up every day. And
Stay this side.
no, close to Mayfair.
Oh, so like town.
Yes, so
Close
that
to
is
town.
like a drive. His excuse was, no, he's coming to see my sister and the boyfriend is visiting them. And it was January when I met Houston. Later on that year, my mom saw, okay, there's a connection here. Something is happening.
And this was right when you started your second matric.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but her thing was like, Sheenn, you need to concentrate on matric. See what happened last year. You don't need any distractions and whatever. And I told him, I'm like, my mom and dad won't have this because of the last year. So I don't think they want to repeat, and they feel that you're going to be a distraction. His mom and dad was very supportive, not to go there when it's exam time or whatever the case may be. When I seen their family, mother, father married with their children, they just looked like a strong family.
Wow.
But in that year, when Houston and I started dating, his parents also divorced.
Okay.
So emotionally, he was also going through something.
Because I know when you're older, sometimes it can be quite shocking in your parents' divorce. Like when you're older, it suddenly it's like, wait, what? Because you tend to think back like, so my childhood was a lie. Like
what's going on?
Yeah.
Yes. So he lost his grandfather and was close to his grandfather that year. So emotionally, he was also going through it. And like I said to you, like my mom and I were like very distant, like emotionally.
Yes.
Like being able to talk to her, being able to open up to her. So now I've got a boyfriend. Who do I speak to with regards to that? I mean, she sees it and she's like, okay, not that she really accepted it.
Yeah. But she never gave you direction or guidance.
No, she never verbally said that, okay, I accept. My dad, on the other hand, he also picked up that something is going on. I think my mom mentioned whatever. Rachel, my dad did not have it.
Really?
He asked Houston to stay away from me.
Your dad is a gangster.
Yes.
I just now remember this.
And Houston knew my dad before he even knew me. We also heard stories. He also seen my father. So my father was this big, bold guy, almost as big as Houston was. And he always had a ponytail.
Okay.
So they called him Gong, or the monk. So he warned Houston, he's like, stay away from my daughter. His parents went trying to speak to my father. So my father's like, I don't care who you guys are and what you guys are saying. I'm not having it. She's my child. I'm saying, no, let him stay away. But Houston kept on pushing, kept on coming. And then I remember one day on my birthday, Rachel, I didn't expect my father to come. Like I said, we weren't living together. So he would unexpectedly also just pop up.
So what birthday is this? 18? 19?
18th birthday.
Okay.
So the morning of my birthday, Houston came with a couple of friends. They came to wish me. And my father pulls up. And, Rachel, you won't understand if I say terrified. My father was never abusive, not physical abuse, but for some reason, like I said, I was terrified of my parents.
Yeah.
They were very strict. And I thought, okay, maybe he wouldn't say anything because it's my birthday. Came there with a cake and takeaway food first.
Yeah.
And he's like, Sheenn, what did I say to you? I just kept quiet. And he's like, I told you I don't want Houston here. Rachel, at that time, I was with Houston. All that love that I was yearning for, I found it in him, basically. Yeah. My father never showed affection.
Yes.
But he was always there, you know. I've never heard my father saying, I love you. If you say, Daddy, I love you, he would be like, me too. But I knew that he loved me.
But never
and loved
verbal expression.
Never verbal or, that compassion or, you know. So I didn't know what to say. And he went out. He started swearing at Houston. He's like, just get away here and, all that. And he came in and he gave me this look, Rachel, I will not forget, like that disappointment look. And it's a look that I remember from the time when I was in high school. And then we were picked up for drinking in public. So that look my father gave me that day when I was in the cell, that look is the same look he gave me.
Okay.
So he gave me one look and I knew, okay, yeah, this is like serious. I thought he would accept it, even it being like year end, I already went through my exams, he did not have that. But we went on, we pushed. Houston and I still seen each other. But that day, my father said to Houston, I told you I want you to stay away from Sheenn. So he said to Houston, I'm going to send 7 guys to your house and they will take you out. And Houston just thought, he got into his car and he left. That evening, Houston phones me and he's like, Sheenn, this is what your father said. And there are 7 guys outside of my house calling me by name and I don't know them. And when I spoke to my father, like, what is this now? He started laughing and he's like, tell that guy, if I wanted him dead, I would do it myself. So I think he just tried to prove a point.
Intimidate, yeah, that he can do it.
That he can do it. But Houston stuck around.
Wow.
And the next year, I went to college, I think just probably into the second semester.
Okay.
So I used to travel with Danielle with the transport. But Danielle and I didn't know each other. She was friends with my neighbor, But till now, we can laugh about it because she knew exactly. When I say I didn't go to college, they would drop me off at the corner. They were Houston Lips and they would go on. The girl that's driving us, she doesn't ask questions. My mom pays her to take me to college.
So she's taking you to college, but you're not going to
No,
college.
then I would be like, please
Houston's
drop me
house.
off at this corner.
Wow.
I think in a way they knew why, So please drop me off at this corner. But then I would go to Houston. So we'd drop me off there. And then when my class would start later, so my mom didn't know my routine at that time as well. So when I go late, and then I would let them drop me off in the morning, and then he would take me to college. But then I started not wanting to go to college anymore. I would not go at all. So my mom didn't know anything. I remember the one time I was at Houston's and my dad calls me and he's like, where you? I'm like, I'm at the college. I'm like, I'm busy writing a paper. So I lied to him. And he's like, okay, can you please come down because I need to make a payment. I'm coming now. So I'm like, just give me about 15 minutes. Rachel, I've never been in a taxi over the Mandela Bridge within 10 minutes. That is how fast it was. And I ran around the back and I came down like, the things you do, I was very stupid to have done something like that. I mean, my father's paying my college and I'm not going. And I haven't been at college for maybe a couple of weeks already. I already missed how many practicals and how many papers.
And they don't say anything. Wow.
And the college didn't phone any parent to say,
the college never told your parents that,
no.
She's not pitching up. Or...
Who told my mother was Houston's child's mom, his ex. She somehow got my mom's phone number and she phoned my mother. And she's like, do you know that she doesn't go to college? She comes and sits here by Houston the whole day.
Just to make trouble.
Just to make trouble. My mom sorted me out for that. And then I went to college regularly. And then in November that year, I fell pregnant.
Okay.
And at that time, Houston and I also had a breakup. He had another girlfriend, but it was very quick. So after our breakup, he was with this girl. But he mentioned that I was just with this girl to make you jealous. Like that type of thing.
Yeah.
But when I told him that I was pregnant, he was like, what are we going to do? I remember I can't even tell my parents all these things because that's how scared I am. And he's like, must I speak to my parents too? I'm like, you can't do that. Your parents already tried speaking to my father and you've seen what it turned out to be. A couple of weeks into it, I think I was maybe 2 months pregnant and then I miscarried.
Okay.
But then Houston and I got back together within 3 weeks after I told him that I was pregnant. We got back together.
Did you know right away?
No. Rachel, I tell you, I started picking up weight. I was a very small person. Then I started picking up weight, bodily, I could see, when something is not. And then I took a test and I said to Houston, listen, I am. So my dad had a shop at the time. Every sister had a turn to go to leave my dad.
Yeah.
And at this time, when I had the miscarriage, I went to my friend. Remember, I had nobody that I could open up to. So I went to a friend of mine and I said to her, listen, this is the situation. And I think I've miscarried.
Wow.
And I went back home. It's like I blacked out. I know I got into a bath and then I went to go and sit on the bed and that was it. My second elder sister woke me up and then she's like, Sheenn, what's going on? And I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? And she said, I seen in the bath.
Blood.
Yes, something doesn't look okay. What's going on? And I kept on like, no, a heavy period. And not knowing that, my sister's that age, she's also experienced miscarriages and whatever. So she knows what's going on. My mom knew nothing. And nothing was out of the ordinary, or she didn't question anything. When I was going through all of this, I packed a bag and I went to Houston.
Oh, okay.
For the weekend. But it didn't end up a weekend thing. So I was there the Friday, I think, the Saturday. Yeah, I see my father pulled up.
So after the miscarriage and all this stuff happened, then you packed the bag.
Yes.
And
then I went. And then my father fetched me from there. So obviously they knew where I was.
Yeah.
Then my father pulled up there. He didn't know where Houston's dad lives, but my nephew did. So obviously my nephew directed him to there. And he picked me up, confiscated my phone. He's like, can I have your phone? He took me back home.
And keep in mind, you're already
18.
Because it's November, December.
18, that was when I finished matric, turning 19 at the end of the year. So he drops me off at home, but he didn't give my phone back. And somehow one of my sisters went through my phone and she went through my messages. And she's seen me sending Houston messages of miscarriage and whatever the case may be. She phoned my mother. And then she's like, do you know that Sheenn had a miscarriage?
But this is the other sister.
My father's daughter.
Oh.
Yes, my father's daughter.
So now she
phoned my mom. And then my mom asked me, Sheenn, did you have a miscarriage? And I'm like, no. My mother's like, are you sexually active? And I'm like, no. Trying to deny. I'm like, no, what? So she's like, your sister's seen all this on your phone and she told your father and he's on his way. Yeah. You like life stood still. Like I went in that much of shock because I'm just thinking, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to explain?
Yeah.
Where do I start? I picked up a bag and I phoned Houston and I'm like, you need to get here. Like now. If you're not here by now, you'll never see me again. I'm going to go to the highway. I'm going to throw myself. My father knows what's going on. So he's like, okay, I'll be there very soon. So me, I'm packing a bag. I give it to my niece. I tell her I'm going to throw it over the wall. And then I snuck out.
Wow.
My mother was in a room. She didn't even know. And I left.
Wow.
Yes. At this time, Houston's dad and mom is divorced. His mom bought a new place. So nobody knew where she lived at that time. So that is where we went.
Okay.
And I didn't have any communication with my parents for maybe a year and a half after that.
Wow.
Nothing, zero, nothing.
Did they not know where you were?
They knew I was probably okay. And I think Houston's dad also probably told them, but they just didn't know where we were. I didn't have a phone. Houston changed his phone number.
Wow. What year was this?
2007.
Okay.
2008, I was living by Houston. And then that year, I fell pregnant with Vivian.
Let's pause real quick. What was life like there? You're living with his mom.
Yeah.
You're living as a couple. Did you go and get a job? Were you still going to school or what's happening?
Houston worked. So I was at home. His mother remarried. So they were good. She was supportive and always also reminded me like, Sheenn, don't you want to call your mother? And I wasn't having it. I was just very afraid. But when I fell pregnant with Vivian, I decided, you know what? I need to let my mom know.
Yeah.
And I sent my sister a message and I'm like, please tell mommy I'm 28 weeks pregnant.
Oh my God.
And she sends back to me, no. She's like, you tell her, you can pass on that message. I'm not doing that. Obviously, I sent my mother a message and I told her that I'm pregnant. She called me and I explained to her. And then she's like, okay, but now I need to pass this message on to your father. Close to the time when I had Vivian, that is when Houston's mother started being like different. And after I had Vivian, I think Vivian wasn't even 10 days old. And then she threw tantrums and she gave me words like, yeah, she just wants to sit like that. When is she going to go and work? She needs to go find a job now.
And he's 10 days old.
Barely. And I felt like, this is not your mother's house.
Yeah.
So I called my mom and I was like, this is the situation. But while I was pregnant, before I had Vivian, the first time I had to go and face my father, I walked into his shop and then I looked at him and I was like, hello, daddy. He looked at me and then he's like, look how big are you? Like in a jokey way. And slowly but surely, I started rebuilding my relationship because I disappointed my father very bad. And I know
Did he ever speak about it to you, or was that it?
he did.
Okay.
I think I'm one of those children that my father had dreams for, like, she's going to do this, she's going to do that,
Because you're very smart.
Anything I wanted, Rachel, like I wanted to study. His other kids, he would hold back. With me, it's like, okay, fine, we're going for the registration and he's there to pay by himself. My father doesn't do all those things.
Yeah.
And I know that I really disappointed him big time. So I started rebuilding my relationship with him and it got better, but without Houston. So even if we had family things, my father wouldn't want Houston.
Yeah.
Even though I lived with him or whatever.
He didn't accept him.
No.
Okay.
And I said to my mother, we were driving home, and I said, listen, please don't try to be a witness. Houston and I are going to court. We're going to sign. She's like, when is that, Sheenn? I'm like, on the 18th. It was in December. She's like, no, that's not going to happen. She's like, why do you want to do this? I'm like, I don't want to have the baby out of wedlock. And my mother organized a small, intimate wedding for us. Within like 3 days, she got me a dress, she got me my cake, whatever.
And you were pregnant?
And I was pregnant.
How far along were you?
8 months.
Okay.
7, 8 months pregnant because I had Bhavin February.
Yeah.
So my mom spoke to my dad, and only then at the wedding, my dad and I were sitting in the room. And that is when he said to me, the reason why he didn't easily accept Houston had a child. She was a year old. So to him, it's like, okay, you're going to be with Sheenn. You're going to impregnate her. She's going to have a child. You're going to move on to the next. If you could do it to the one, you can do it. He's a man. He said, yes. I'm a man. That is what I didn't want for you. I didn't want to see your heart broken. And I think that is my father tried to protect us from that. Then he said to me, are you happy? I'm like, yes. He's like, because it makes you happy, then I'll do it.
Wow.
We got married, and that's the first time my father took Houston's hand.
Wow.
And he said, it takes a man to marry another man's daughter.
Mm.
And I think that moment with my father accepting Houston gave me some peace as well. Absolutely. Because my whole relationship through, I had to run away from home basically, to be with him. Mm-hmm. And my parents didn't have hope in this relationship. To them, it wasn't going to work. At that time, also, Houston used to drink. He had bad friends. So they tried to protect me from that as well. But that moment, Rachel, when my dad took Houston's hand, hugged Houston, I was relieved. Mm. And, their relationship was good after that.
Wow.
Vivian was born. My father was the proudest granddad ever. Yeah. So we still lived with Houston's mom. I worked, Houston didn't work. I have a job and then out of a job, in a job like that. His drinking still continued. Houston and I never had our own place, so we still lived with Houston's mom. Now, when Vivian was born, like I said to you, she told me to find a job or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I called my mom, and that is when I moved to my mom, like for a couple of weeks, just me and Vivian. That's when Houston moved in with my mom and I with Vivian. And ever since then, we've been with my mom. Going on in my marriage, Rachel, Houston used to drink. We didn't go to church. He didn't want to know anything. I used to now and then just go with my mom, but he didn't have it at all.
This whole time, I'm assuming you just stopped going to church. Once this whole relationship with Houston happened,
I stopped.
You stopped. So then after you met Vivian, you said you would go every now and then?
With my mom, yes. But not Houston. Catholic people believes I'm only going to a Catholic church.
Yeah. And then you're born a Catholic, you die a Catholic. Yes. There's nothing.
And I longed for that. I needed our family to go to church.
Did you feel it was missing? Like you
it
knew
was because now I had Tyler and we went to Catholic church, here and there. And I remember the last time I was in a Catholic church, Tyler was probably 2 years old. And Catholic churches are like very quiet. And Tyler just started screaming, where's Jesus in this church? Show me. Who's that auntie? The statue.
Oh, of Mary.
Yes. He's like, who's that? And he's like, there's no Jesus in this church. And we're trying to keep him quiet. That didn't work. We didn't go back to that church after that. And before we got saved, our marriage really was like going down the drain.
Well, it only can go down, right? So you have Vivian, then you have Tyler, 2 boys, 2 years apart. Then here comes Peyton. And so you're working the whole time.
Yes.
And Houston
started a very good job. Like after we had Peyton, like late 2020, early in 2021, that is when he got a good job.
So this whole time he's not working, or he's
not
on and off.
Yes, on and off. There was a period where both of us did not work. And that was like the worst because now Houston was drinking the substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he feels he wants to go and party, me and the children needs to Bonnie bag with him up and down.
What did you say? Do what?
With our Bonnie bags.
Yeah.
You know, if he goes to his dad, because that's where the drinking goes on, we need to pack up on a Friday, then we go to his dad.
Okay.
And it was like every weekend thing. Like when we have money, then we there, spend the money, drinks the money.
Yeah. So of course this is creating a lot of tension.
Yes. But I got caught up in it as well.
The partying?
Yes, partying, also tried substances or whatever. And one day I said to Houston, no, I would lay in bed while he's there and I would just listen to sermons online, YouTube videos.
Just anyone?
Anyone, just to get the message across.
Were you trying that stuff to
block out
what was happening?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of things. And also to fit in as well. And I remember with 2020 when it was lockdown, Rachel, my mom would make us every day without fail. We would sit, you read the scripture out of the Bible, have a little bit of devotion. I remember we did the whole of Job. I think at that time, with Job's story, that also gave me hope a bit, like faith, whatever's going through, we will get there. And I think that is the seed that was planted. Houston used to sit like he's not interested, but I know it did something.
Well, of course, we know that no matter where the source is, God's word is God's word.
Yes.
It doesn't come back void. God plants seeds all the time.
Yes.
How were your kids handling this? Because this is now through their early primary years.
Yes.
And they're seeing this chaos.
Rachel, we were so caught up in worldly things that we didn't even worry what's going on with the children. We would feed them. We would give them their devices, phones, as long as they are busy and, we can have our entertainment. It wasn't something that we need to listen, there's children growing up here that needs attention or whatever.
It's interesting only because I know sometimes it's hard to be honest and it's hard but this is the past you.
Yes.
This is the old life. But that's not even how you were raised. Like you had 2 parents who were very, even if they weren't emotionally involved, they were present.
Yes.
But now what you longed for, now your kids are going through the same thing. Like, yeah, my parents are here sometimes.
Yes. In 2021, I started a new job. Houston was still working at this old job. And then the 4th of April that year, I walked out of my job because I had an argument with the owner of the company. We wanted to get physical. And then I left.
Wow.
Got home. And I explained to Houston, this is the situation. I was very emotional. This man nearly put his hands on me. And I'm trying to explain to Houston. And he gave that, I don't care vibe. So I called my mother and I'm like, listen, this is the situation. I'm not going back there. And she's like, Sheenn, you on your own? Because we moved out for 4 months. We were on our own. She's like, you are in a new place. You need the job or whatever. Yeah. But Houston wasn't there to support me through it. He didn't give me word of mouth okay, it's fine. You can stay. Not knowing that same month, he would be laid off.
Wow.
So now we're sitting. We're in this place. But Rachel, we had there was nobody. All those friends that Houston entertained, the family, nobody was there. I had to split my children up, send them to my mom.
Wow.
To take them to school. Here we are going through the most. There's no food in the house. We were literally alone. And I think that is where I decided, you know what? I want to be done with everything. And I said to Houston, this is not normal.
Rock bottom.
Yes. I moved back to my mom. And she's like, if Houston does not change, he's not coming back here.
Wow.
And that is when I said to him, we need to work things out. My mom is not having this. Things are going to have to change.
She means like the drinking, the drugs, the stuff.
Yes, it needs to change.
So you're staying with the kids with your mom.
Yes.
And Houston's
by his dad.
okay.
2 days later, he came and we had our last money, and he was very, very emotional. So we got a B&B here in Devland, just me, him, and Peyton. And Houston is sitting and he's got a beer in his hand and he's crying. He's like, Sheenn, there is no other way. I don't know what to do. If he could take a rope that day, he would. And I looked at him and I'm like, Houston, God wants us to come back. He is calling us. I'm like, this is God's way of saying, open your eyes, see what you guys are doing. I'm like, we can't go on like this forever. And then I explained, like, the children. Then only it hit me, like, even though it doesn't look like it's affecting them, it is affecting them, you know? And he just shook his head. He didn't say anything.
Do you think that came from just everything you knew about God?
I knew, right?
Were you going to church then, or you had just because of growing up?
Just from growing up. We didn't, attend church, or it wasn't like something that we need. But that day.
But do you feel God gave you that revelation? Like
He did.
Like it's me that you need.
Yes. With all that was going on, this was God speaking to me. And I tried to convey the message. And Houston was wondering, like, do you want to go? And he's like, then you go. Don't expect me to go. Or stop drinking and smoking. It's like, you found me drinking and smoking. I'm not going to leave my drinking and smoking now, all that type of things. And
like, I was already doing this before.
Yes,
I'm not
like,
going to
why
change
must I change now?
Yeah.
I think, Rachel, man, I think it was a week after that, I spoke to my mother. She felt him sorry and he came back.
Yeah.
She, gave us that ultimatum.
Yeah.
You're going to move back in. This is what I don't want. Stop the drinking, stop your substance abuse or whatever. And one Sunday I was cooking, cleaning the kitchen, and I find a flyer.
Okay.
With Pastor Roman. And I go into the room, I show Houston, I'm like, wow, look at this testimony. Like, read the flyer, man. It just gives you a whole new view of things. And he reads it and he's like, okay. I'm like, don't you want to go tonight? Because I see this service tonight and the whole week. Don't you want to go? And he's like, okay. So I go back into the kitchen and I clean up and I see he gets up and getting clothes ready. Now I know Houston changes his mind like in a split second. So I thought,
let's just leave it.
That time and he'll be like, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
But he was persistent.
Wow.
We going to church service. And I told my mother, she got so excited. I've never seen my mother so excited. She's like, really? She's like, I'm going with you guys. Just for the support. We came and I can't remember the sermon, but when it was altar call, we went and we got saved on that day.
Yeah.
Houston did not turn back till this day. And his family can't believe it. They even call him evangelist. They can't believe it. That was June.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember it was June.
And he stopped drinking immediately. Substance abuse. The December from there, he left the smoking.
Yeah.
And you've seen Houston's
absolutely
transition. And it made such a difference in my life as well, And that is when I'm like, this is like something that I've always wished for. My family to be at the church. Houston to be safe, to be the example to our boys, And till this day, it's like mind-blowing. It's like, wow, he's still trying to get his siblings saved.
Yeah.
His father. And I know that will happen.
But he's brought family. They've gotten saved.
Yes. He's still witnesses to them. He's still, going on, Rachel. I question myself. I'm like, God, thank you for being here this space. Thank you for my salvation. But has our past life and what we did, is it having an impact on my children, especially my boys now? Is it because I didn't put enough effort or time? If I say 2 years, almost 3 years, I missed out on my children's life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still question myself. Is it like, but I still pray and I still, ask God to work in my children, whatever scarring I did for healing. I still pray for them to heal because I know they could see what's going on. I know that they see in this lifestyle
But
but
they see you now.
They see me now, and that is what I wanted.
The most amazing thing, I think, even Christian parents, I mean, we raised our kids in church and we still battle mistakes. We still think, man, I sure screwed up my child. But we have to remember the God factor. And at the end of the day, he loves them more than we do. And he saw them through that time. He sees them now. And yes, we can say, God, I repent from that. But they're seeing now the greatest thing that your kids can see is that you're not who you used to be. And they think, yeah, we saw the old, but look at our parents now.
Yes.
And every child makes their own decision, but they know where to go.
Yes.
They know where home is. They know that God loves them. You guys have pointed them in the right direction over and over. Think about the beauty of they don't have those parents anymore. I mean, you are not the same mom that you were then. Houston is not the same dad. They watch you serve God. They watch now Houston's in ministry and you're in ministry and you guys are a blessing. I know there's a lot of things that Houston is taking care of behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. And he's always willing to just help. You help in the kitchen and nursery and choir and song service. I mean, you guys are so involved and that's what your kids see, right?
Yes.
Even if the problems, they see, okay, when there's a problem, guess where we are? We're at church. We're still going to church. We're still there. And God redeems.
Yes.
God redeems time we mess up.
True. That is my safe haven. I think that is when I think of all of that, then I'm like the example we're setting now.
Yep.
Yeah. And I always tell them, and I thank God for my salvation and, Houston's salvation. I say to them, you guys played a more important role in this. We needed to do it for you guys. We needed to change for you guys, for you to have some good example to look up to, And that is what I always remind them of.
Because there's no hope in the world. And the older they get, they're going to know we're different.
Yes.
We're different. Even if sometimes they don't like it, they're going to realize, man, we're different. And my parents aren't on drugs. They're not beating each other up and drinking and living on the street. We don't know where we're going to get our next meal from. Like my dad works. My mom is at home. She loves us. Those boys, I mean, even Peyton, she knows she's loved, but those boys know their parents love them.
Yeah.
Which, had you not gotten saved, who knows what
would
have
have
been repetitive of Houston's family or your family or
exactly. And I am just grateful for the welcoming at the church. I think that was what drew us. You guys were all warm. And Houston's like, I belong there. I mean, Rachel, I live down the road. I passed the church all my life. And not once did I think of coming in here. But I think that is just how God put it. So the day when you walk in here, that is where you're going to stay. Rather do it at the time where I was rock bottom than do it at the time where I was okay, because I don't think I would have come back.
Absolutely.
So, grateful for the Potter's house, like really.
And I don't want to leave out the little miracle blessing of your youngest.
Yes.
Because even after all of that, after salvation, God blessed you with another baby girl who is so gorgeous. So now you have Paige Elise.
Yes.
And she is the delight of the church. It's been interesting watching you and Houston and the family with her, because I know life is completely different for her than it was even
for the others.
The other three. She's never going to even know her parents unsaved. She's never going to know her parents' chaotic life.
She's going to only know this life.
And I love hearing when people have post-salvation babies. You're just so happy. You're like, let's have a baby.
Yes. And I mean, prior to that, we were trying and nothing. And 1, 2, 3, something that we've been trying for 2 years prior.
Yeah.
And now here I am with child.
But God, I think, was like, just wait.
It really came as a miracle.
Because now she's a reference point of basically the start of new life,
Yes.
It really is a joy watching you guys and your family, and then the future is still even unwritten, right? It's been 2.5 years now, almost 3 years, right? So it was June of 2022.
Correct.
Because we got here July 2021.
Yes.
And it was our first revival with Roman.
2022.
Did he only come once? I can't remember.
He came once, yeah.
I mean, that was an incredible time. And I always think, because you guys are the fruit of that revival and such an incredible miracle.
Yeah.
Just from a flyer. You never know. You never know the impact of just someone cleaning a house and picking up a flyer and God saying, okay, let's do this.
Let's do it and never turn back. Because you know what? God's been so good, Rachel. There was a time when we weren't working within that period, but we've always had.
Yeah.
Joanne and Daryl's been also a blessing in our lives. You and Pastor, you know, especially with my boys, with Tyler especially. I think, you know what? He gets extra love from you. He really needs it, and I'm glad that you're there for him.
I know how much I love my own boys, and when I see other young boys, especially, you know, Tyler and Greg being friends, it's just, I see the potential in them. I see like God has so much for them, and it just makes me want to keep pushing them, like, you can do it, you can do it. I mean, this world has no hope for boys right now, and it's very hard being a man in this world. It's very hard trying to figure out who you are growing up, especially I think in South Africa, where there's so much emphasis on woman power, for lack of a better way to say it, and that men are trash. And yeah, I really do love your family, Sheenn, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for having me.
I want to say thank you to each and every one of you listening. I say this every time, but without a listener, the story can't be heard. If you enjoyed this episode or any previous episode, please share it with someone. Don't underestimate the power of a transformed life. Lastly, if you are not a Christian, or perhaps you were but have turned away, and you want this for yourself, just like Sheenn talked about for herself and for her husband, it is possible. John 3:16, God sent his only son to pay for our sin. Just ask Jesus to come in your heart, forgive you of your sin, and he will do that for you. Until next time, this is Rachel Heimberg, and you've been listening to Not the Same.